All right, it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And let me begin with a roll of the committee. Barbara McKenzie.
Here.
Dave Cahill.
Here.
Deborah Doyle.
Here.
All right. Just a reminder, we have the microphones. Those are really to benefit the recording. They don't do anything to amplify in the room. So a reminder, when you're speaking, please press the button, see the green light, and remember to project so we can all hear you. A couple of announcements I'll make to start, if I may. I knew that our director, Erica Dubois, was not going to be able to be here today, and it turns out that Dara is also not able to attend. Lisa will take notes of any questions that we have for the director. Do we have any members of the public who have submitted comments not related to items on the agenda? Or I don't see anybody having joined the WebEx.
There were no comments received via email or mail, and there are no members of the public in attendance.
Okay.
We have Dave Tasheva attending via Zoom, so if there are any questions or facilities.
That will come up. Okay, thank you. With regard to our discussion items, I'm going to use the prerogative of the chair to rearrange the sequence in which we're going to review these. And we're going to start with item 4.2, which is the Q1 capital project update and request for appropriations. Let me just say at the outset that this is our first time going through this new process. And while I expect that over time it will become more automatic for us, it may take us a little more time today. That's okay. I want to be sure that we all understand what we're doing and why, and can explain clearly to other members of the commission what's happening. So, Myrna, I'm gonna turn it over to you at this point.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm really excited to present this first update of our new capital budgeting procedure for the year. It was meant to provide the commission more regular updates with finances for our capital projects. And so with that, it also gives us an opportunity internally to put together this update, coordinate, and look out for the next, for this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, and have greater communication internally as well. So this is the first update, and I'll just refresh your memory about what the new procedure is our total planned capital budget is 8.6 million. And the procedure calls that 1/3 of that budget is appropriated on July 1. We provide a update in October and can request up to a second third of that funding to be appropriated in October. And in January, we come back with an update and can request the last third or the remaining of the available budget with narrative and updates to our capital projects. So today we're presenting the first update, and it contains one major spreadsheet with lots of information on it, but it's organized in 3 sections. The first section is the projects that were included and approved in the budget in June. So can you just move to that spreadsheet and I'll speak to it. So here, these projects that were under section 1 are the Petaluma refresh, the Healdsburg refresh, Cloverdale, the patio there, Rincon Valley Central. Rincon Valley is really for design. This year, Central is under design, and HNG.
History and genealogy.
Thank you, history and genealogy, is under design as well. Rohnert Park, Dave can give you an update, but pretty soon we'll let out an RFP for that. We have a project manager to help assist with all of these projects and give greater attention and ensure that we're on track. And then there were multiple projects there under that were listed in the budget, and then information technology. So under all of these, Petaluma, Healdsburg, and Cloverdale and Rohnert Park are expected to have broken ground and get the work done in the new calendar year, after January 1. So there's very little money that has spent to date, and we're not requesting any new additional funds at this time for those projects. Rincon Valley, Central, H&G are also under design and expect those invoices to come in also sometime this year, but we have funds available. We appropriated, a third of the budget. So we're good there. We're not asking for additional release. The only area where we are asking for additional release is under information technology, and is shared in the report. The library is planning to purchase 4 more book biblioboxes. And so Mike is here if you have any questions on that, but we do need to have some funds available prior to December 31st to get that purchase going.
Excuse me, Brenda.
Yes.
I'm going to stop and ask you a question, if I may. For my own clarification and perhaps for the committee as a whole. All of these projects have already been approved as part of the budget process, right?
Yes.
So when you talk about appropriation, that we're talking about funds being appropriated, does that mean that we want to make dollars available to be spent?
Yes, when you appropriate, you actually give budget authority. So at this time, in concept, all these projects have been approved, but what has happened in the past was these projects were delayed, and the entire budget for the project was fully appropriated and no funds were spent. So it looked like the library was severely underspending under capital. So at this point, the only time to release the funds is the project is advancing, making progress. We're making expenditures on it so that our budget is in line with our expenditures.
That makes sense to me. Do any members of the committee have questions on this or want further clarification?
Just one question. I know this project manager. Is that a new position?
It is through one of our current contractors that provide additional support to track. So it's not an employee, a library employee.
Okay, my question is, are we spending that much more because of the trifurcated appropriations process?
Oh, no, this is because of the number of projects and the level of these kinds of projects that need attention to manage these projects.
Okay.
But Barbara, excuse me, before you add Lisa.
Dave Tasheva has his hand raised, so I don't know.
Oh, okay, thank you. Why don't you go ahead with your question and then we'll let Dave.
Just a brief, I had the same question that David. So was that in our budget, the 100,000? I don't remember ever talking about it, but.
It is written in the budget. It wasn't typed out the way it is. The $100,000 was there. It wasn't described. It was described in the narrative. It just, I looked back and I didn't include the description on the spreadsheet, but it was discussed.
Thank
you.
Dave, I see you've got a hand up. I appreciate you joining us by Zoom. Why don't you go ahead and comment, please?
Yeah. I can comment to the project manager's consultant. So that's consultant fees for that. And we use Facilities by Design, and they're taking that on. And then I want to make just a clarifying point on Roanoke Park. Roanoke Park is allocated. They just received a grant, and that's our matching funds. The 350,000 is our portion of that.
So I appreciate that. How is the utilization of projects by design new in this fiscal year, or have you used them previously? And I just,
we've used them from the first refresh. They have been our relocation team, and then they've added a little scope since then as we've evolved.
Okay, thank you, Barbara.
I was gonna bring this up in a larger context, but since Dave is on the phone and he's already brought it up just now, I was going to pursue this question of these infrastructure.
Could you turn your microphone?
grants.
Thank you.
Since Dave's on the phone here, I wanted to pursue this question of infrastructure grants because I am assuming that we prepared this budget in anticipation that we were going to get them, right? And if we hadn't gotten them, you'd have to come back and ask for more money. Is that right? And if the information I got from our city was that they're going to need to come up with something like half of $838,000 or something. I'll ask for this, that when we talk about the next agenda item, some sort of report that shows that. But in terms of consistency, are all of these projects, the ones that have gotten infrastructure grants, is this going to be treated in the same sort of way? And are they in some way reflected in this budget?
Well, Barbara, I can tell you that Healdsburg did not get an infrastructure grant.
Right. Well, Santa Rosa did, right?
So the way the budgets were developed were with those grants in mind. So what you see here is the partnership where the library is providing matching funds. So it is what we have to date. If there are any changes, that's what these updates are for. So at this time, unless Dave has additional information, he expects this budget to change, but in our conversation, we're not expecting our contribution to change at this time.
That is absolutely correct.
And to your earlier point, one of the benefits of this new process is you'll be coming back to this committee again in January. And if things have changed, we would get
That's correct.
timely response.
That's correct.
Well, I'd like to follow, but we can go a little further down.
I'm not sure that's, I'm a little concerned that we're going to be getting into something that's not on the agenda.
Well, we're talking about budgeted amounts, right? And how it works with the infrastructure grant, are we not?
I would note that the grants just arrived.
I know.
And so there is certainly probably some additional information that we will want later down the road, but I'm not sure that.
Well,
we would
that's the
expect it to do
information
it.
I could provide today, Commissioner McKenzie, is that at this time, I don't believe the library has had any additional discussions to change our budget projection for this project. As Chair Doyle mentioned, is that we just did receive notification of these grants. And I'm sure there'll be discussions going on. And if there are any changes, we will provide an update as soon as we can. And at this time, it looks like it'll be January.
Okay, I feel a little shut down on this conversation.
Is there a concern? I mean, we just got approval, what, last week? Yeah, we got approval Thursday. They haven't had a chance to do anything. We can ask questions, but I think it's unfair to staff to ask them something they haven't had a chance to prepare for.
Well, this report was prepared in advance prior to notification of those grants.
Right, but the expectation was of the grant, I believe you said, that's where this number came from. It would be the library's portion of a cost share.
Yes.
So that was my question, whether all of that, the other ones that got grants, were those estimation of their cost share, or does this imply the library paying the full cost of the project?
Oh, Dave, could you respond to that?
Yeah, all that was taken into consideration, and yes, we want to treat every partner the same.
Thank you.
Mike, I know that you've got a time situation. I'm just wondering, do we have any questions specific to the IT component while Mike is here? This would be, I'd like to be sure that we give him an opportunity to respond.
Yes, as noted, we have 4 biblioboxes going in, scheduled to go in this year. Runner Park, Northwest, Cloverdale. Oh my gosh, the other one's slipping my mind.
Windsor.
Thank you. Last but not least, Windsor, and not necessarily in that order either. To that, I expect those orders to be going in this fall. I'm also working on a master purchasing agreement with Lingso, which we've gone in 2019 to RFP for our central sorter. We've since installed 4 of their other biblioboxes at our branches that are all successfully in use now. And so with this purchasing agreement, which will be coming to the larger commission meeting, will be a 3-year purchasing agreement. And enabling us to fast track these projects such as the biblioboxes and other automation equipment such as AMH for our branches, self-checks, vending devices, etc. So I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that I was working on that. It's separate but related to the project for the $200,000 appropriation for the biblioboxes listed here.
And are the biblioboxes included in the $895,000?
Correct,
So they were
yes.
already included as part of the budget. You're going ahead with the purchase of these 4, and that's the reason for the $200,000.
Correct, yes.
Deborah.
First, I just want to thank you so much for stepping in to be the co-deputy director.
Oh, thank you.
Truly, you have so much to do, and so I really want to appreciate that. And also, I can't help but remember, and those of us who have been around, we all have been around for long enough to remember Vicki Turbovich wanted these she wanted these, in addition, of course, to the bookmobiles, but she wanted these, and I think it's wonderful that we're actually getting there and that we've got enough money to make these available to our patrons. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from other committee members for Mike about the IT components of the capital budget? Okay, Barbara.
Can I ask a question about the biblioboxes?
Yes, most certainly.
The order in which it is installed, you kind of implied, I mean, I don't care for the orders, but what is there a factor that's related to the facility itself, like people inside the facility put the books through the wall somehow, or I mean, I don't know.
They do need to load the biblio boxes. They come out with the carts and load the boxes and unload them in cases where people haven't picked it up. They are an express service, so holds are kept for 3 versus the standard 7 days. As far as the rollout, part of it is the structure of the buildings, which was factored into how we've rolled them out up to this time. Sonoma was our trial candidate. Its overhang at the branch made it an ideal test bed for that technology. Also with Guerneville, they had a nice overhang, as well as Rincon Valley, Healdsburg, mostly the same. The first branch that we're going to be making any changes is going to be Rohnert Park. Rohnert Park does not have an overhang where we're going to need to put it, which is on the western wall of the outside from the community room. And so I'm gonna be working with Dave Tasheva on this project as far as getting a pad and a nice awning for it to be out there. So it's right up front when people come into the building, they can pick up their books on one side, drop off their books on the other. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay, I'm sorry. I
That's
kind
okay.
of derailed.
No,
your
no, that's okay.
presentation,
This
but-
is a segue into the second section, which Mike does have a rebudget. So as you know, we do roll over funds from the prior year into the current fiscal year for projects that started last year, but were not completed. But, and items that were purchased for those projects that will be paid for in the current fiscal year. So there are a couple of items there. I don't know, you have questions about them. It's the Java connections, laptops, anytime kiosks, and phone upgrade, and I can never pronounce that word, the Lingso systems at Healdsburg and Rincon Valley. Those are the biblio boxes. So a total of about $190,000 in those requests. In addition, under facilities, there's a $443,131 requested to rebudget for the security project, branch signage, and our capital improvement program that is currently under development. And so those are a total of $624,346 for projects that were started last year and expenditures that need to take place in the current fiscal year to complete them.
So again, just to belabor the obvious, these were expenditures that were approved as part of the 2022-2023 budget. They were not expended during that time, and we're rolling them into the current budget.
Yes.
Any questions on that? Barbara?
The security system amount, those are for cameras and badges to get in the building.
That's correct. And the equipment associated with those.
And all libraries will have cameras outside, and all staff will have, are these new security badges?
Yes, it's an upgraded system, yes. And all currently we have every location but Sebastopol.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes, Deborah.
I think this may be from Ray. How many branches don't have signs? I know you've been working on this project for a while. Sorry about that.
Committee Chair Elkin, committee members, Ray Hawley, Operations Manager. We are trying to create some consistent signage. One of the things we really learned during the pandemic was that we relearned was that people use multiple branches. the branches where they live, branches where they work, branches where they travel through town. We want them to know what to expect. So our model signage is at Northwest. There's a big monument sign outside. It has all the fire department regulation, addresses, things like that. We have a similar one at Rosewood that was designed and constructed and installed to match the Rosewood building. We're gonna do that at all the branches. And they're expensive. You know, they're bespoke for each one. They need power, they need lighting, and things like that. And we're in a preliminary discussion with two communities, Windsor and Cloverdale, about putting in a message board.
Oh.
So it would have one or two lines. It might say story time, 10 a.m. tomorrow, or, you know, library closed, you know, things like that. We're not gonna have moving graphics, and we're not gonna lease them out to nonprofits, but we're looking into that. That's kind of where these public facility signage directions are going.
That's great.
So we're developing all those designs for that.
I think it's
And that's
terrific.
what that's.
Thank you. I just wanted to update because I know that you've been working on this. Thank you, Ray.
Questions for Ray while he's at Barbara?
Follow-up question to you, Ray. Since we have like this oddball library and the Roanoke Park Library says Roanoke Park Community Library on it, because Roanoke Park, you built the building. Will this sign say Roanoke Park Community Library, or is it gonna say Roanoke Park Cotati?
If I have anything to say about it, it'll have the library's proper name, which is Roanoke Park Cotati Regional Library. And it'll be, I think we'll just, all the signage everywhere, we're just gonna leave them on the buildings. But this will be a monument sign, like I said, it's a big white tombstone. And it'll be set in a location where it can be seen from a busy road. So in this case, it would be Roanoke Park Expressway, perpendicular to that.
So have these, has this gone through the cities? You've been working with the cities, or is it not
In each case, we
necessarily?
get a sign permit.
Pardon me?
In each case, we have to get a sign permit.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ray? Thanks for stepping in, Ray. Appreciate it. Okay, Myrna.
Okay, take it away. Okay, so though that was section 2 of your big spreadsheet. And that's a total of $624,347. And the next section is the section number 3 for new projects. And the new projects include continuing work on indoor air quality. The new events area that you see when you come in and into this conference room outside, and the branch signage. I have branch signage here also because the $22,999 are a placeholder for these signs. And again, we'll come back in January with an update.
So I'm sorry, are these items that have been approved as part of the budget, or this is an additional request? So it's a change to the 23-24 budget.
This would be a change to your budget. So the rebudget and this would be a change to the current budget. So it's adding expenditures of 624,000 plus 432, well, not, yes, 432,000 expenditures.
Well, the 624 had previously been approved. The 433,000 would be a new approval, is that correct?
Yes, completely new projects that you have not seen.
Okay, so this would need to come before the full commission for approval, okay.
Yes, all of these will because they have appropriations associated with it. So the commission will need to take a vote.
Okay, so I think since that has to happen, I think we would want to be in a position of understanding this and being able to speak confidently before the full commission. Do you have any questions about these new projects? Dave?
Yes. I'd like more information about the improving air quality for this. My concern is that we had to shut down several branches for several days because we didn't have enough portable scrubbers. Apparently these rattle around from branch to branch. Will this provide an air scrubber that's dedicated, stay right at all the branches, individual branches? I mean, from a lay perspective point of view, this should be part of the HVAC system.
Yes, well, there's a couple things happening is that management and the union did come to an agreement to change the trigger that would close our branch libraries. And in addition to that, belt and suspenders, we're proposing this air quality project that Dave could speak to in terms of, the equipment that will be out in the branches.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about
Yeah. So we already kind of started this last fiscal year, and we have air purifiers in every reading room, in every meeting room, every branch manager's office, and we just need to add some more components to each of these systems, and they become what's called a air quality control array. And so we've been slowly building this over time, and the technology is now just been released to do this array a few months ago. And so, we realized really quickly that this is the way to go. It's fairly economical. Each building will have its own dashboard of air quality and zones. So staff can see immediately. These systems will go on automatically when they sense the quality is bad. So if an event's happening early in the AM, they'll just come on and clean the air, and they're low noise, and they're very, very good public facing. So probably you never notice the one in the meeting room at Roanoke Park when we have our commission meeting, but it's on the west wall, and it just sits up there, and it's running most of the time, but nobody hears it. So the air scrubbers are more of an industrial thing that we use when we're replacing carpet or painting and stuff like that. But yeah, in an emergency, we need to clean out VOCs or whatever's contaminating the air. We deploy those, and the last event was like whack-a-mole, and each previous event's been similar, but we're slowly catching up to the point where now with this new agreement with the union that we don't foresee too many closures in our future.
Just to follow up, once you're finished with this, is it correct to say that if at 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, everything's closed, if the system senses smoke is coming our way, it will automatically turn on the system so that the air will be clean by the time the branch opens the following morning?
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Right. Now it can now it's only going to be able to handle so much, right? So we're making sure that it can handle, the most common events that we have, up to about 300 on the scale of the index is what we're hoping to be able to supply good quality air under 300 conditions.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Yep. If we're over 300, there are
Yeah, we'll be over.
problems.
We'll be overwhelmed and can't do anything about it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions about these new items that will be asked to approve at the next meeting? Okay, Myrna.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for all those very good questions. In summary, as stated in the report, there are two major impacts to the budget and the fund balance. First is that the rebudget and the new projects are total $1,057,345. Therefore, that's new money, and that would increase the capital budget. Since the library uses fund balance to fund the capital projects, it will also impact the fund balance. the use of fund balance by that same amount. The second is that the commission is being asked to appropriate $1,196,879 for expenditures, which include these three sections, to take place through December 31st. And I did have little calculations down here to show these two numbers to you. So I'll take any questions that you may have. Okay.
Quick question. Because the commission hasn't approved this yet, none of this will be reflected on the financial statement of fund activity that we will be looking at for September, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, but once it's approved, then
We will
You-
do a
you-
budget adjustment.
thank you.
So the commission will be asked to approve a budget adjustment. There will be a resolution and all those fine details that we need.
Okay. Any questions on this procedure? As I say, I think going forward, it will maybe be a little more expeditious, but I appreciate everybody's thoughtful questions. And Myrna, thanks for letting us consistently derail your presentation. And Mike,
good.
Dave, and Ray, thanks for jumping in with clarification. We really appreciate it.
I just want to compliment Myrna on this whole approach, because we're going to be under increasing scrutiny over the next year. And that's clearly laid out why it appears that we have money that we really don't have, and how everything's being handled very cautiously. We're only appropriating funds that we're going to need in the next 3 months.
That's correct. And I do want to acknowledge Dave and Mike that, I need their support because it's all about them and their expenditures and how they manage those budgets. So, thank you.
Barbara.
Apologies, I had this question, I forgot to ask it. On the CIP development, which is in the revised budget, are we done then with the CIP? My question specifically relates to the statement that we're identifying priority capital projects for this system. So I was under the impression that would give us a whole list of all the system and all the priorities. Are we done with that or no?
That's what this project will do. Yes,
Thank
and
you.
and there will be an update to the commission as well.
Thank you. I just affirmed that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we want to give a presentation to the finance committee on it and then go to the commission.
And we appreciate that. Deborah, you had a hand up too? No? Okay, so now we're going to go to what was originally item 4.1, the reauthorization of funds from fiscal year 2022-23 to 2023-24.
Okay, so in the last item, we talked about rebudget, and those rebudget funds were for capital projects. And separately, this report looks at non-capital rebudget requests. So here, there is a total of $207,115 that are requested to carry forward from last fiscal year. And they include under collections, the collections group continues to purchase and order books through June 30th. And of course, there are many books that we want to put in our request in early so that we're in the queue to get these copies as soon as possible, but they don't arrive until after, July 1 into the new fiscal year. So that total is $123,341 that we're asking to rebudget from the prior year. Under information technology, there are a couple of items that are seriously Dynex. and the Dell monitors and Envisionware for a total of about $42,000. And under community, or $43,000, under community engagement, the lunch at the library grant last year was very generous, even so that it allowed to pay for existing staff that so that means that there was savings involved because we had the grant paid for some existing staff, and that relieved our general fund and sales tax. So that relief or savings is being requested to carry forward into this year so that the lunch at the library program and other summer programming can get extra help to support year-round planning for those programs. And that is a total of $40,466 to go towards extra help.
I'm going to comment and ask a question, if I may. First of all, unlike the capital review that we just did, this is something that seems to me we've done every year, that there are orders placed before the end of the fiscal year which aren't fulfilled, either for books or for IT materials. And so we routinely need to move those dollars from the previous year budget to this year. The one thing that's a little bit different to me seems to be the lunch at the library grant, and the fact that we received that grant and that it paid for some of our staff is terrific. And I think that bringing those dollars into the new budget year for extra help seems very reasonable. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes, that is correct. And the way I see it also, it gives incentive to staff to apply for grants and, put that extra time and effort and creativity in applying for grants, and then reward them for being, successful and can continue to provide quality programming.
Any questions or comments, Deborah?
Comment just that, and the numbers are so small. I mean, the budget is so good that it's amazing. I think that these numbers are small when has not always been the case in the past. Also, I may have said this at a commission meeting, but in the dark history when San Francisco Library didn't have any money, they were coming to the Friends to get funding for the summer reading program. And they had a brilliant idea and said, if you give us the money a year in advance, then we will have all of this time to plan for not this summer's reading, but next summer's reading. And so I think if we're going to continue to do lunch at the libraries, that might be something that we think about, or, just to make sure that you've got enough money as that time, as the staff is trying to plan for that. But I'm sure you all already thought about these things.
Yeah, but that is true. Planning actually creates efficiencies, that's all.
Any other questions or comments on this discussion item? Okay, because this also, Myrna, will come before the commission for approval.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, with no other questions, we're going to move to item 4.3, which is the September monthly financials. And this is a quarterly report, so we are seeing some things in a little more detail than we would routinely. I apologize that one of the pages was inadvertently misprinted in the handout you got from the branch. And what you have in the packet that you picked up and was identified as page 7 is actually a blow up of the top part of what you have as page 6. So I'm going to ask you that you take page 7 out of your packet and replace it with this page, which was sitting in front of you. And then we'll have a complete set. So, just a reminder, you know, we're 25% of the year. 25% through the year for those expenses that are relatively straight line. From a revenue perspective, obviously, we're not going to be seeing any property tax revenue or any significant revenue until December. And as you all well know, our sales tax revenue lags a month, 2 months behind. So we are just now seeing and recognizing sales tax revenue from July. So with that background, Myrna, why don't you take us through from a high level how you view the first quarter reports?
Thank you for that overview and introduction. So the library is doing really well. One of my objectives coming to the library was to recalibrate our budget. You know, like in the capital project, and the new budgeting procedure is one of those mechanisms, tools to do that. And the other is, just as we budget, that we're accurately forecasting what we will need for that fiscal year. And we're getting closer. And so on both the revenue side and on the expenditure side. And under revenue, as you can see, we're where we should be in the calendar year, with 3 months into the fiscal year, and our revenue cycle. So no surprises there, except for the first recording of sales tax for the month of July is recorded in September, because that's when we receive it. So that was $1.3 million, and it's a little better than last year at this time. So we're in good shape. Also with under other receipts, it's a combination of matters, but again, it hasn't changed much, and really our grants are driving that revenue there. Under expenditures, salaries and benefits are at 22.7%, and that includes that lump sum. So we're under budget, but not as much as we have been in the past. So we'll continue to monitor that. We will see a bit of an increase in health costs in January, and that's the normal time that CalPERS increases their health. So we'll be catching up with that number, and we'll be tracking closely to make sure we're within budget.
I'm sorry, just to jump in for a second. The lump sum that you referred to is what you called out on the bottom of page 14 in the packet.
Yes.
This was the annual amount that we need to pay for the unfunded accrued liability on the pension, right?
Yes.
And as you pointed out last year, by paying it all in a lump sum up front, we're able to save the library some money rather than if we had paid it out on a monthly basis.
That is correct. So we started doing that last fiscal year. The other thing I'd like to mention this, and this is something that the Finance Committee has focused in on, is looking at those long-term liabilities like pension. And that's what this is. It pays, it's keeping up with the interest, basically, and probably not as much given how the markets had functioned over the last 2 years. So this is like minimum payment that we need to pay against our unfunded accrued liability. And I was at CalPERS last month, spoke with our actuaries. Kurt, he was there in person, and we've already knew this, that the last actuarial report we received from CalPERS reflected a really good market. And there was a great positive rate of return, better than what CalPERS expected. than their discount rate. And then, things have plummeted since then. All of this has an effect on our unfunded accrued liability. So while this year we owed only $1,062,450, because now our current actuarial report includes losses where the market return was less than the CalPERS discount rate, our UAL has also increased. And so payments going forward, like in our next budget year, are going to increase. And we can have an update to the Finance Committee on what all that means and what some of our options are, but there are options to manage our unfunded accrued liabilities.
I'll come to questions in a second. My recollection was that we had had some pretty detailed discussion about this and had agreed not to take any decisive action until we knew the results of the sales tax renewal
That's correct.
measure. Barbara and then Dave. Oh, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Going to be paying roughly $1 million in January. If you had to speculate, considering the changes in the market and so on, what will we be paying a year from this change?
Oh,
3 million?
no, it would be like 1.3 to 7 million.
Barbara.
In terms of our ongoing policy of 750,000 a year extra that we're putting in, what is our process for doing that?
It's for OPEB, right?
Yeah. What's I can't remember.
Okay, so on our OPEB, yes, we are paying extra. And what is our process for doing that?
Like quarterly or?
Oh, yearly. So we make that payment before the year end, like in June.
So in the May or June.
Does the same thing apply? Is there any benefit to us paying that up front?
Yes, that means that in addition to paying your minimum, we pay extra to pay down that unfunded liability. So our unfunded liability for OPEB, we're being proactive.
Right. No, I know that.
Okay.
That's why we did it, but you're paying it early instead of at the end of the year. The same way we paid this full lump sum early.
There could be some benefit to that as well. I could do that given our financial situation. I think in the past, the library had been waiting till the end because we didn't know how our revenue was coming in. But since we're paying out of we are paying out of our operating revenue. So that's why they wait till the end just to make sure the funds are there to cover that. If that's something that you are all interested in, I mean, there's no policy that prevents the library from paying it sooner.
Well, it seems to me that if you're doing it at the same time every year, the big difference would be if we did it in May or June of the previous year, and now we moved the payment to, July or August, we'd have two payments very close together. So it would kind of accelerate the total, but then we'd be in the same situation where we're paying once a year. I don't know if there would be any benefit. If you have some time and can look into seeing whether the timing of the payment would have any significant impact for us, that would be great. Because it's an additional payment. I think it's different than this, which is a required payment, which is normally, this would be like paying your mortgage for the year instead of every month.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at that since it is a payment that's the UA. Yeah, since the payment is out of our, operating, they're both under the operating. So yeah, I could take a look at it. Sure.
But I can see that there may be a reason to be prudent and wait just in case there's some really unexpected financial dislocation. in the middle of the year. Okay. Sorry, please go ahead.
So under books, media and subscriptions, you do see that it's slightly over the 25% of our budget. And that's partly because of the rollover of the expenditures that we're paying on already. So when, if and when the commission approves it in November and that budget adjustment hits the books, this will be normalized. Capital projects, so far we've spent $442,000, which is 15% of our capital budget. And we do expect to see that increase after January 1.
Excuse me, Myrna, quick question, clarification. When I look at the budgeted figure for capital expenses, that looks like it's the allocated dollars, right?
that's
It's not the
correct.
complete budget for capital for the fiscal year.
That's
It's
correct.
only the 1/3 that had been allocated. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So we have our cash balances for general fund, which is 13 million, and our sales tax is 20 million. And our fund balance, which is the first time you see it, because the statement of fund activity shows the fund balance. Yeah, thank you. And well, oh, thank you. So audit adjustments have been made to the special fund activity statement. And all of those adjustments for the prior year have an impact going forward into the current fiscal year. So what we have today, and those adjustments, and you can see them, they're listed in there, are like sales tax receipts. Those the receipts for May and June were not received until July and August, and that adjustment is in the statement. And also, the statements show how much we expect to spend under capital projects, which is the use of fund balance. And those numbers have been, normally it's what we expect to spend that fiscal year. And so since the prior year has been adjusted to actuals, it releases funds into our fund balance and therefore impacting the fund balance. Those were the items that some of the items that needed to be looked at, reviewed carefully before we released these numbers. So that's why this statement has been released to the auditors. It is unaudited. They're currently reviewing all of our financial statements. And having said that, as of September 30th, our uncommitted fund balances and unaudited under property tax is 11.7 million and sales tax is 10 million.
Myrna, given the fact that this is an unaudited statement and that it doesn't reflect either of the discussion items that we just went through, what would you advise us as a committee to be focused on in these reports, if anything?
I would say, you know, the use of a fund balance, you know, that you could just imagine the way the measure Y or the sales tax pays for 90% of the capital projects. So of the new requests that we're making, right, which is, I don't know, whatever that amount was. 1.9 million,
Right.
90, the sales tax is picking up 90% of that. So we can see that under sales tax, our fund balance here would be reduced approximately 900,000.
And what would be reduced is the unrestricted fund balance available for budgeting.
Right.
Okay.
Because then we're restricting it by 900,000.
Okay, so I would expect over the months ahead, we'll be looking at updated reports that will reflect all that.
Yes, as you know, this statement normally doesn't change month to month
Right.
unless there are budget adjustments like we just discussed.
Right.
But these are healthy balances, and I do encourage and I do want those capital projects done.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just stop. Barbara, I know that you're our fund balance guru and hawk. Do you have any questions, concerns that you want to raise about the fund balance statements?
It's growing uncommitted fund balance. I wouldn't.
Did you put on your mic?
I did. Oh,
Thank you.
go on. Okay. It's just a very healthy and growing uncommitted fund balance. I wouldn't say that I perfectly understand the relationship to the committed amount for capital improvement with that and how it's gonna reflect. I'm gonna wait till next month to see their idea, but I really understand what it.
Sure, give me a call also if you have questions.
Okay. And I do have a comment about the sales tax. I don't know if you want me to make it now or at another point.
About the fund balance for the sales tax?
No, the sales tax figures.
Oh, back on the revenue figures? Yeah, well, let's go back and cover that now.
Okay, so they probably keep their records separately, but the Sonoma County Transportation Authority, they have a quarter-cent sales tax, so there was always twice as much as us. And at their meeting last week, they're projecting a small decrease in the sales tax number for the year. And I just had it on here as a tax. They're projecting us like a 1.2% lower amount. And again, maybe it just hasn't played out for us yet, but that's what they're seeing. So anyway, I just thought if you didn't already have a heads up on that, just let you know. Oh, the tax revenues for 23-24 projected 1.53 negative below 2023. So just FYI.
I thank you. I appreciate that. I will continue, we'll see more information for us and that I can provide for the mid-year review. So yeah, I would have a lot of questions to better understand their projection. It is slowing down. So it just depends on, what their base is and whatnot that they're basing their projection on.
I appreciate you bringing that up and looking at the budget compared to last year. I know that we are projecting about a 6% increase in sales tax revenue. It sounds like that's diverging a bit. So I know that you are staying abreast of macroeconomic factors, and
that 6% is based on our budgeted numbers, no, our actuals, not our budget. So and looking at the history of where we have been, and so that's where that 6% was, and it was created, back in February, March. And again, we will take a look at that in January. So yeah, lots to look at. My review has been that it has slowed down, but not, yeah, that is just it. We will not be seeing the same rate of increase that we have historically.
we'll have to keep an eye on that. So
Yeah.
maybe this would, before we go any further, so that was really about page 1. Are there any other comments or questions regarding the page 1 summary report? No? How about the page 2 cash balance summary? And I know we've had some discussion about pages 3 and 4, the statements of special fund activity. Any questions now, or you're gonna hold those for next month or the month after when we see a revised report? Okay, I think we're on to page 5 then, Myrna, which is the voucher payments over 50,000. I noticed that we have a payment to Java Connections LLC with no description. Do we know what this is for?
That would be for IT. Can ask a question of Mike at this time. I don't know what that.
Okay, well, Mike's. Believe, okay,
Needed to leave.
So-
I'll,
you could add that, please, Lisa. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments on page 5? All right, then let's look over on page 6. This is the revenue picture for property tax. And as we indicated at the beginning, normally we're not going to see any significant property tax revenue until December. We have a bunch of incidental revenue amounts, but the total is only 240,000. I suppose everything we get is great, but I didn't have any questions or concerns. Did anybody want to raise any? Okay, so now we're into the detailed expense items, and I would just certainly invite any questions. And I realize that you're probably seeing this page for the first time. I would just remind you that our major expense categories, the salaries and benefits, services and supplies, and capital expenditures are all underneath the 25% number that we would expect as kind of a guideline for the first quarter. Now, there are some individual items that were beyond that. In some cases, the dollar amount is relatively low, in others it's not. So why don't you take a moment to look over this page of expenses related to property tax. It does continue on to what was the printed page 8. And if there's any questions that I'm not sure, these may end up going back to Erica, but please feel free to raise any questions that you have. While the committee members are looking these over, Myrna, do you get any information personally when an expense item seems to be like, I'll just pick one at random. 52091 memberships and certifications. We're at 100% of our annual budget. Is that because those are all front loaded and typically we do that at the beginning of the fiscal year, or do you have any additional information, or should we just call out items that we would want you to look into and get back to us next month?
Yes, I would say yes, memberships can be front loaded, but I would look at, I just got these, I get these a few days before you do.
Right, I understand.
And so I'm trying to get better, and we are getting slowly better at this, is looking at these numbers, much sooner. And this is for the first quarter. So yes, we're gonna go back and talk to folks when we see these numbers as to what's going on. So in that one, I would definitely, and a few of these, I'm going to go back and speak to, division managers and, if I'm gonna see, well, what's driving that 100% under memberships?
Yeah, so
For
I would
example.
just, I have a couple that I would ask that you look into, sort of between the combination of the percentage and the dollar amount. So I would say our liability insurance, which is 51041. We're at 62%.
And we pay that up front at the beginning.
Information tech services 51209. Not trying to pick on Mike because he's not here, but that's at 72%. And I think those are the two items I would just ask you to look into and see what you
Okay.
find out. Any other questions? Okay. And again, I'm not trying to get nitpicky here. All of these are within the context that our overall expense picture seems very well controlled. I'm just curious. The property tax expenses continue on page 8. I didn't see anything of concern there. Did anybody else? Okay, so then we're going to look at Measure Y sales tax. We have the revenue figures on page 9, and again, this is only for 1 month. It was reported in September, but of course it represents the July number. I guess not to nitpick, but with the up at the top, where we actually have 1.3 million reported for September, it shows as 0% year to date of the budget. It was 7.9, wasn't it? We saw that on the summary report. I'm not sure why it seems like a flaw in the Excel.
Oh, yeah, 7.9%.
Yeah. So what it looked like was it's a little bit below. If we were looking at it on straight line basis, it's a little below where we would hope to be, but it was still above last year's actual. So I say we don't have enough information really to know if we should be
Right,
concerned.
because in our revenue cycle, our revenues increase in the, like, you'll see higher monthly receipts right around now and also in the spring. That's when we see some spikes for the sales tax, and also in the December one for holiday spending.
Right, right.
That's where we
So-
make up the difference.
Sorry. So basically, we need to encourage people in Sonoma to spend more around the 4th of July, I think, to support the library.
Yes, come out and do some wine tasting.
Okay, yes, all right, good. And then pages 10 and 11 are the detailed expenses. Again, there are some that seem to be running ahead of what we would expect. I don't want to pick on items that are real small dollar amounts, but again, 51209, the information tech services seems to be we're at 72% of where we would expect to be for the year. Computer software and licensing, 52143, we're at 48%. If you could check with Mike on that, and just, I'm not concerned, I'm just curious. Do you have, anybody else have questions about any of the expense items?
Well, my dad was a federal budget guy, always said, look at the column and where are you in the year and what's
Yeah.
the percentage, so we're all going down lively down that column. And of course, some things are front loaded. I was interested, bookbinding and that those numbers were high, and then postage. I don't know whether you front load the postage, the mail-in postage and it's at 82%, I think. So that I thought was an interesting number, but again, it could be something that's front loaded and it can be perfectly fine. But 82.
It can be, but we can take a closer look so I can have a better explanation for you.
Yeah, thanks. But I don't want to belabor it,
Right.
but we seem to be,
Fine.
in good shape. And then because and I really appreciate you doing this, because I know that we've had questions. I'm looking at page 12 now, the other contract services. I appreciate this breakdown. I know there have been questions from commission
So,
members
Just
about
the
this.
the other item in terms of what you have noted is that, yes, overall under services and supplies, we're within the 25% of the year. Given any, special activity that happens, right, front loaded or, are we paying later in the year? But, what you see here in the budget, it was what was estimated in February, March, right? That was their budget at that time.
Right.
What happened between then and now that their actuals are not reflecting what they budgeted? Do they have savings somewhere else where they could, shift funds into these areas where, looks like they're overspending? So those are some of the questions that I will ask the division managers and provide you with more information around that.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. And page 12 is just a breakout of the other contract services. Any questions, comments? Okay, Myrna, I really appreciate you getting this together for us. We're on to agenda items for future committee meetings. We are hopefully looking at reviewing a draft of the audit at our November meeting. Is it, you still hopeful?
I just wanted to point out that I did include in the final report, friends balances. That was posted online. That was not in your early packet that was sent to the branches. This was in addition to.
I'm sorry, what was it? I'm sorry. Oh, Frank, yeah, okay, so do you have that, Lisa? Can you pull that up, the friends balances? And Myrna, could you explain what are we actually looking at here? Because my impression is that, you know, I just know from the Healdsburg Friends, I think they have more money than is reflected here. So what is this number represent?
So this is a reconciliation of their donations and expenditures through September
Ah,
30th. So what has happened is that they do carry forward, you know, balances from the prior year. And, there's been discussions, and we have a new procedure for reconciling and reporting to the Friends groups, is that during the pandemic and, no CFO and lots of ambiguity, there were certain items that were paid for with not fund balance, but with property tax or sales tax that should have been charged against Friends. And so therefore, the Friends balances, because donations were made, the available balance was increasing. And we've come to a resolution about where those numbers are when we last reconciled in the prior fiscal year. So we're carrying those balances forward. But this fiscal year, we are very meticulous about recording each donation and each expenditure against the Friends account. And the branch managers are the ones that are presenting. They get to see that reconciliation on a monthly and to have a discussion with the Friends groups. And this has just been made available.
so I'll get to you in just a second. For example, I'm looking at Cloverdale, $14,478.77. Does that mean that over the course of the past, the Cloverdale Friends have provided this much in funds that have not been expensed
Mhm.
yet and are available to the library to expend?
Yes, I mean, and some of it they may already have plans for, like they
Right.
could have donated last month, $500 for books, and it's not recorded here.
Okay,
yet.
okay, thank you. Barbara?
Or the expenditure hasn't been
Yeah.
recorded.
Just again, to add to this, the branch managers asked the Friends for money. The Friends gave the money to the library didn't charge the Friends for that money. So the money technically isn't Friends money to request for things, but there's supposed to be a correlation or a conversation between the Friends and the library on how it gets spent. It's complicated, and under the new arrangement, the staff, somebody is going to meet with each of the Friends groups. This isn't their treasury. This isn't Healdsburg's treasury.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be a quarterly meeting, I believe, staff's gonna, I believe you said, gonna get a report and then go to each Friends group. But I think it's gonna be interesting from that point forward, how this eventually gets accounted for.
And as those expenses are agreed upon and the money's actually expended, these balances will decrease because you're going to be tracking all that and reconciling it really
Yes, and,
closely,
it's-
as opposed to what happened in the past. Yeah.
You'll see, the ups and downs will make more sense.
Okay. Great. Well, I'm really happy to see that you've done. I can only imagine. It seems like it's a ton of work that went into this. So thank
Yes,
you and your
I do
team.
want to recognize all of my staff, but in particular, the accountant, Jessica. She's wonderful and caring and wants to make sure that the Friends and the branches get the support that they need from our accounting team. And she's put in place some very nice work to reconcile and be transparent with our accounting.
Okay, great. Any Thoughts about items for future committee meetings? You did see the plan that Myrna had of what she's going to be presenting to us when, which I thought was great. Barbara.
I don't have that plan in front of me and I don't want to make any one meeting too big a deal, but next in November, we're meeting a little bit early. That's gonna be the audit, right? So that's gonna take up a lot of our time. If not November, if that's too soon, I would like to request a report having to do with the infrastructure grants and the cost sharing arrangements. Erica sent us this nice email about the grants and how much they were and kind of what they're gonna be paid for, but you know, to just illuminate us more, especially in the cost sharing requirements.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you know what, Barbara, if I'm thinking since that's going to be a report, why not go to the full commission? I don't know that we need to see it first in the finance committee. There's nothing, it's not a discussion.
We're talking about capital projects. I mean, I don't know. I think that I don't know why it wouldn't be. It can go to the full commission, but I don't know.
I'm just curious, what would you hope to, I mean, normally we review things first that are going to come before the commission for some action, but I think it's already been applied for and I'm not sure what the decision would be.
Okay, I don't care.
Okay, great.
I just want to see a report.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I
think it's a great idea.
one of our
Sounds great.
things is we talk about the stuff and we filter it, we understand it.
Yeah.
And that would be my request to come here, but either way.
So let's, Lisa, let's ask Erica to, I have a feeling she's probably already thinking about that, but maybe we can get that on the November 1 agenda. Yeah.
And then my second one is that now that we have a full commission, this committee used to be 5 members, wondering about adding a new person to just kind of start bringing somebody else along. About, you know, this is a complicated committee. I mean, there's a lot to know, so just wanted to have anybody's thoughts about doing that.
Yeah, that's in the discretion of the chair.
It is.
So I don't have any position. I don't know who's qualified or who'd be interested.
I like the idea of expanding the committee. I don't want to speak out of turn here. I'm not sure how confident I feel about 11 members actually staying on the commission. I think that's all I'll say at the moment, and I'll take this offline and think about it. But I appreciate where you're going with this. Yeah.
Dave Tasheva
Oh,
has his hand.
Dave, I
raised,
see you have a hand up.
probably because of the construction grants.
Yes, I'd like to address the grant situation. So our jurisdictions have 90 days to accept. I think a 30-day report is very optimistic. I don't believe like Santa Rosa is going to meet with us in the next 30 days or so on this. They also have a lot of timelines for when they plan to do the expense, which is, I believe, until 2027, right? We have until 2027, or those jurisdictions do. Now, however, ours will be presented, I believe, this next commission meeting. So the annex.
I got it. And I appreciate you clarifying that for us, Dave. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I know we covered a lot of stuff, and Myrna, thanks for all the great preparation that went into this. Our next meeting will be Monday, November 16th. And I hope we'll have a chance to be reviewing a draft of the audit.
It'll be Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Oh, my gosh. My apologies. We did change that. So Lisa, what day is it? It's Thursday, November 16th. Okay, I got the day right. Just okay, good. Thank you for, I think I was the problem child here, and I appreciate you all adjusting to make this possible. So look forward to then. We are adjourned at 5:30. Thank you.